Introduction to Meditation, Session 2, and this is January 19th, 2017, Dalhousie University, and we're in the sub-room 224. Today's session is going to be taking a Western perspective, a Western analysis of meditation. And this is going to be focusing on what science has found out about meditation. When I looked up the definition of science, I found a definition that said it is the state of knowing, knowledge as distinguished from ignorance or misunderstanding. And that relates back to something we talked about in the first session, identifying the difference between what is real and true and what is real and not true. What is truth? And in science, of course, they have methodology to distinguish results that are valid. And they would look at replicating results pretty much along the lines of what the ancients said about identifying the truth, that a result would be consistent over time and location. We'll be going through these topics. As I mentioned, the ones in square brackets are the updated ones. But, please feel free to suggest others as we move along. I really want the material to be of interest to you, particularly. So if there's something that you feel we should be talking about in future sessions, jot it down in your notes and let me know. From the first notes, there were three major types of notes I received from the first class. One group was of notes were more like questions. Another group focused on different types of meditation that people would be interested in, their topics. And the third group had comments about how they felt after the meditation. So I just want to quickly run through these. In terms of questions, the only thing I would say there, in looking at the questions that were sent to me, is that there is a general guiding approach to meditation that might be of use and you might find interesting. And this approach goes something like this. If when you're meditating something unusual happens, or you have something spectacular, or in some way it's different and notable, your response should be, "That's interesting," and then you would just go on with your meditation. On the other hand, if when you're meditating nothing really unusual happens, there's nothing notable, you're sitting there and you're just sitting there, well, at that point your response should be, or your conclusion should be, "That's interesting," and then go on meditating. In other words, don't let your reaction one way or the other stop you from meditating. Just take note of it and then continue. Now, in terms of the questions regarding topics, we will be going further into different types and styles of meditation. I think I covered most of that. If the person who put that comment about types of meditation, if I'm not addressing that, please let me know what you mean by types. Now, in terms of pain management, I don't have anything specifically dealing with pain management in the topic list, but there are aspects of managing pain that I can weave into the material as we go along. And of course, we'll be talking about the benefits of meditation in each of the sessions. For those of you who left comments about feeling inspired or feeling really warm and light, this is great. In fact, all the comments are great. I really appreciate them. The thing here, if you're getting results, if you do your meditation and you feel in a resourceful, calm, beneficial state, we do this short contemplation period afterwards for you to capture that feeling so that you can take it with you. The idea is that you'll be able to have more and more times when you feel relaxed and in balance. and you'll be able to carry it with you. Just mention again the resources that we have. We'll be posting the presentation online. If you had difficulty finding the first presentation or this one, let me know and we'll fix that problem. I'd like to also mention where the Bounce Back Ability website is located, where I have my meditations and the information about Tai Chi. I want to thank the St. Mary's students that are maintaining that. That's fantastic. And again, a note about the Facebook page. Great place to leave comments or to ask questions if you have questions. And I will also be posting the link for the videos on that Facebook page. Just quickly, here are some areas that I've been doing some work in that are potential topics. Just want to put them up there so you can sort of think about them, take a look. One is the internal map of reality, and there's two things in there I find particularly interesting. One is called the timeline, and we all have a way of organizing our life, both in the past and the future, along a conceptual timeline. The whole idea of content-free learning, because if you think about it, nothing that you remember has any content. You just remember the symbols, and you work with symbols. So we'll talk about that if you're interested. In the area of personal growth, there's something called the 4 enemies or the 4 allies, and we all will encounter these 4 enemies or allies in our journey. Another area that you could be thinking about as a possible topic is the model of human interaction called transactional analysis, the art of being okay. And you may have heard about this, but I find it's a very good user-friendly approach to understanding how people react to you and how to deal with that. Under the topic of healing, there's 2 aspects there that I find interesting. One is called reconciliation, and the other is self-adjustment, self-alignment. And these all are connected to meditation in some way. Now, we spent time last class looking at some terms and concepts and words that I use maybe a little bit differently, and maybe these are things that you haven't really thought about before. So some new ones this class. I will be expanding the modes of thinking from 6 to 18. We'll talk about that. We'll be expanding the concept of beliefs when we look at the scientific impact of meditation. And the thing about states of mind, I'd like to swap out the word feelings for the words states of mind. So when someone asks you how you feel, what they really want to know is how are you overall? How are you functioning overall? It's a much broader concept than feelings. I find that when I ask someone about their feelings, you get happy, sad, blah, blah, blah. Don't get any really good information. States of mind, I think, is a broader concept. So when I say states of mind, you could think feelings. Now, something called symbolic representations. When we have an experience, we will be processing that experience under the modes of thinking. And then we'll create a symbolic representation of it and store it in a frame, and we call that frame. So it becomes a symbol of an experience, not the actual experience. When you combine the modes of thinking with your beliefs and your states of mind and your symbolic representations, those all go together to form your strategies for motivation. Internal strategies, very interesting area. So we'll be brushing against that concept. But really today what we'll be focusing on is something I call the 3-body system. This is generally used in most meditation schools and most churches and whatnot, religions. They refer to the individual as having 3 components. And I'll be referring to those 3 components as your physical, your energetic, and your spiritual self. So we'll be delving into that. Now, As part of the review that we're doing right now, I will end the review with a guided meditation. It'll take about 20 minutes for this first part. Then I'll take about 20 minutes to go into the topic today, which is a Western analysis of meditation. And we'll be looking at what has science found out about the physical body that's relevant to meditation. The same thing regards to the energy body and the spirit body. Now at this point, I'd like to just mention that I have a specific way of referring to these three bodies or three systems. The physical body is pretty self-explanatory. It's our flesh and bones, the stuff we can touch and feel and see. So it shouldn't be much of a problem there. The energy body, that might create some confusion. So to clarify that, when I say energy body, I'm talking about something that you can measure, something that you can photograph. So this is a real measurable experience. The key here is that the energy body is not like the energy you get out of a light socket or a wall plug. The energy body comes from a physical process, and it's a living energy, and it has a tremendous amount of information in it. The other body, the spirit body, again, that can create confusion, because people might say, well, where is the spirit, kind of thing. I simplify that. I just simply say the spirit body is your consciousness or your awareness of your experience at the moment. Your spirit is your awareness of self. And that's how I pretty much keep it pretty straightforward. Now, the spirit body, we will be going more into consciousness when we talk about the subconscious later. But that's pretty much how I refer to the three bodies, and hopefully that clarifies it. And of course, at the end, we'll do the detachment meditation. I'm leaving a bit more time so that we can discuss it, leaving 20 minutes. The last class we had to rush through it. So we'll do the color meditation today again. We're going to do it for the second time. Only this time what I'll be doing is I'll be expanding the color meditation beyond just referring to the visual aspect of colors, but I'll also add in the other modes. So when we do the meditation this time, I'll be blending in other modes. And we do this naturally. Quite often when we listen to music, we move. Or when we're eating a food, we may look at it and visualize and be interested in the color and the look of the food. We combine modes. And when you combine a mode, that provides more information. So we'll do the color meditation now. Okay, so when we're looking at how the West views the body, what I notice, and again this is my opinion, but it appears to me that in the scientific world, Western approach breaks things up and looks at the physical body in isolation of the energy body. Same thing with the spirit body. These things are not really interconnected. And what we're really interested in is a holistic approach. However, that being said, I will give you information now about how science is looking into these three areas and how we could potentially link them together. As I mentioned earlier, most meditation schools will have some concept of the three bodies, and that's very common. They might use different names, might refer to them slightly differently, but the whole idea that there's three levels here. And sometimes I think of the three levels much like water. And water, when it's frozen, looks very different than water at room temperature. Or if you look at water in a lake, it looks like it's something completely different. Ice looks different than liquid. Similarly, ice and water, liquid, look different than steam or clouds, although it's all the same thing. So these three bodies are really an extension of the same thing. They just are in different states and they look different. And that's what I'm beginning to look at this. Okay? But the key here is that it's very common that there are three systems that are treated separately and dealt with separately. Now, the physical body, science has done a tremendous amount of work analyzing the physical body all the way from the atomic level right up to the size of organs, millimeter size. And if you look at the nano size or the micro size, and you look at the number of cells in the body, science even can tell you how many individual human cells we have. The last time I checked, it was somewhere in the neighborhood of 200 trillion individual cells. And the thing I find interesting here is that cells do work at the atomic level. They work with atoms, and they process information from the DNA to understand how to make all the different chemicals that are needed. So in a way, cells are little chemical factories. One of the things that I find when I watch a lot of the free videos and whatnot from the various universities, tremendous amount of information. And if you look at the chemistry of cells and the microbiology of cells and how they function, how they create energy, how they divide, and that cells are little entities. They replicate, they divide, they feed, and they respond to each other, and they respond to the body as a whole. So the question is, how do all these individual cells know to function as one individual? And that is the big issue here. How does our body structure function as an individual? Well, I guess the key is the mind. And there's something interesting that was discovered in around the 1900s. The function of proprioceptors was discovered. And here you see a picture of an elephant balancing on a ball. And the ability to do that very delicate balancing is done through the system of proprioceptors that link the body to the mind. And if you notice that the elephant is not looking at its feet, it's just balancing. It's doing the balancing in its mind. So the connection between how the mind can control the body and communicate with the body, science has delved into that. In fact, some people believe that this whole system of proprioceptors is the basis for how we define ourselves. It gives a sense of self. Switching now to the energy body, in it again around the 1900s, the ability to actually measure the energy in the body began. Today, it's very, very common that when you go into a hospital, they will measure your energy. Now, this information they get from the energy in your body is extremely accurate. They can tell how your heart is functioning with very little. In fact, one of the definitions for a death in the hospital is when brain wave function, electricity in the brain ceases to move. Similarly, if someone's heart stops, they will use electricity to start it. A large amount of volts shot into the body will restart the heart. So this energy is interesting. As I suggested earlier, the key here is that this energy is a bioenergy. It's a living energy, and it has information in it. It's not, again, just the electricity coming out of the wall. Another aspect of the energy I find intriguing is that over the years in studying various forms of meditation, it was brought to my attention that just as we can fine-tune the physical body and improve the way we move and how we move and what we can do with it, the same thing is true of our energy body. The term Qi Kung, loosely translated, means energy work. So you can refine this energy. In terms of the spirit body, again, it was in the late 1800s, early 1900s that the various schools of psychology were formed. And this is when Western science began to really delve into the mind and its impact on the body. One of the areas that we do a lot of work at the Center for the Study of Sport and Health at St. Mary's University is the connection between the mind and workplace stress. Now, if we just look at that, how consciousness affects our other two bodies, if someone is in a very resourceful state of mind, they'll show up to work very energetic, have lots of energy to get their tasks done, and will probably end the day and want to stay longer to finish up the task. Similarly, if they show up to work and they're in an unresourceful state of mind, they're under some form of stress, they will have very little energy, and they may even feel a bit sick. They may even get that Monday morning phone call where they don't come into work because they don't feel well. It's not because they're sick physically, it's because of their mental state causes a drain, causes an alteration. I know quite often I will go to do something and I'm not in the mental mind for it, I'm not in a positive frame of mind, I don't feel physically ready to do it, I don't have any energy. But when I get there and I'm talking to people and get involved, my state of mind changes and my energy comes back and I get very physically and actively involved in things. So there's a direct relationship to how we are thinking and how our bodies and our other two bodies function. I'd just like to end this section with this photograph. This is a photograph. It could actually just be a computer-generated graphic, but you can get actual photographs of a human cell. So this represents that, and the three entities there are little sperm traveling to an egg. And the thing I find here, that, as I said, this shows all three bodies in action. The egg and the sperm have a purpose. They know what they're doing. They're not just wandering around the fluid and accidentally bumping into each other. The sperm are competing to get to the egg, and the egg accepts a sperm. Now, you see that flash of light? That so-called spark of light is present whenever there's a fertilization. It's a release of energy, and that is a sign that fertilization has taken place. In one of the articles I was looking at in preparation for this presentation, there was an interesting research done on identifying the eggs that were most likely to produce a spark. So now they can separate out the eggs that have the most potential to produce that spark. And if that spark isn't there, the egg does not fertilize. So this is part of the system. It's a physical part. The egg and the sperm know what they're doing, and then there's this energy that's released. Okay, well, let's do our detachment meditation. And what I'd like to talk about here is when you're doing it this time, try to stay perfectly still. And I was suggested this the last time. And the reason I want you to stay still is because if you are moving, you are actually thinking. Recall that moving is one of the 6 modes of thinking. And a lot of people don't realize that movement is thinking. There's brainwave activity when you wiggle your finger. It's a mode. So staying perfectly still while you're doing this meditation is important. Still like you to do it with your eyes closed, but if you are at home and you want to do it with your eyes open, it's perfectly fine. Just pick a spot to focus on. Okay, I think those are the main points for today. Let's do the detachment meditation. Okay, I'd like to thank you for participating today. And the next session will be on January 26th, Dalhousie University again, but we'll be back in room B400. And the topic next session will be the relaxation response. And again, thank you for watching this video and participating.